Good evening, just gone 7 p.m. on Saturday night, the 30th of January 2020. My name's Toby Mesme, and this is another edition of MesmePolitics. Good to be back on. Sorry that we missed yesterday, but here we are. Back to usual on the schedules with you every day, 7 p.m. My name is Toby Mesme, and between now and 7:30, live for the next half hour, we will be talking about a Tory minister, having a go at a journalist, firms struggling with red tape, after Brexit, what we need to do, the hard right takeover of the Republican Party, and its very worrying side effects. And in a minute, we'll talk about Boris Johnson's letter to parents who are homeschooling right now. You can get in touch at any point in the chat. We are bringing you all the latest from the last 24 hours in UK and US politics from a unique leftist perspective, live on YouTube. And to kick us off, Brussels has been forced back into a humiliating U-turn in the face of outrage in London and Dublin after seeking to trigger a Brexit deal clause to establish border controls on vaccine doses moving into Northern Ireland from the Republic. The European Commission was forced to backtrack on its plan to effectively erect a vaccine border on the island of Ireland after both Boris Johnson and the Irish Taoiseach, Michael Martin, spoke personally to the President, Ursula von der Leyen. EU sources says it had acted in error, but the crisis highlighted the growing political furor over the lack of vaccine supply and tensions within the UK. The move had been part of the European Commission's announcement that all vaccine suppliers will have to seek authorisation of their exports because of shortages within the European Union. Let's hear a report on this from Sky News. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what we'll do. We'll have a listen to the EU itself talking about the power to block COVID vaccine exports. Have a listen to this.
Today, we have developed a system that will allow us to know whether vaccines are being exported from the EU. This increased transparency will also come with the responsibility for the EU to authorise, with our member states, these vaccine exports. And we do this for three reasons. Firstly, to ensure that we can continue to work on the basis of evidence and complete information. Secondly, to reinforce our capacity to deliver on the advance purchase agreements so that citizens from the EU and beyond can access vaccines. And finally, to protect the integrity of our substantial investments from the EU budget. This is an insurance policy.
So what we seem to be seeing is a really bizarre strain of super-nationalism being embraced by the European Union. It's really, really, really strange. Here's Michael Gove on the U-turn on that particular Article 16 element of it.
Last night the Prime Minister talked to President von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, and made clear that we need to have the contracts that have been entered into honoured properly. And it was made clear that that supply would not be interrupted, so we can proceed with our plans and make sure that our so far highly successful vaccination programme can continue.
But what about that point specifically? Why not start injecting those who've had the first Pfizer jab with the second one now?
So a really strange, really strange situation. It demonstrates rank hypocrisy on the part of the European Union in that they profess to be against, you know, the breaches of international law and the backhanded deals and the disrespect that the British government made its strategy towards Europe. But actually what they've done, and also argued against things like protectionism, what they've just done is they've closed the borders around. It's not nationalism for one country, it's nationalism for Europe, and it's serving no one. It's a breaching of solidarity in the midst of a crisis, which the EU could have used to really make itself a useful asset for its member states. Instead, it's behaved appallingly. It's been behind the curve at every turn. It's been an absolute disaster. It's been an excellent argument against EU membership right throughout this. And the hypocrisy of the way it's behaving here It's just the least progressive, least socialistic, least decent thing that I've seen an organisation like that do during the course of a global pandemic, particularly an organisation that's been touted by progressives as some sort of saviour and a check on the excesses of Tory governance. It's stupid politics. At the same time, why on earth would they do this? Why would they let their PR take such a huge hit just to settle scores with the British government? It makes no sense. It's counterproductive. It will only damage them in the long term. Why are they doing it? Just looking at it from that pure political perspective, what on earth are they playing at? Because it's shooting themselves in the foot, right? As well as causing mass disruption and worry to various nations around the world, particularly those less well off. Just if we're going to be selfish, right? This damages the project, the European project. It hurts it severely. It's united British politics and British voters in condemnation. When has anything here been united in condemnation of anything? It is my belief that the last few hours, the last 24, 48 hours, have unequivocally been a vindication of the left-wing arguments to leave the EU. The belief that the EU is not a panacea. The belief that the EU is no bulwark against all these forces that we fight, be it xenophobia, be it nationalism, be it neoliberalism, as the left, as a united left. They have shown their true colours. They've shown their true nature. And I have never, more than I have in the last 48 hours, felt completely vindicated in my consistent belief that EU membership was wrong for Britain and Britain was right to withdraw from EU membership, and that there has always been a much stronger left-wing case for that than there has the really odd, loopy right-wing case for it, which has dominated Brexit debate. And it's a shame it has, because that has shaped the settlement we now have post-Brexit. Looking ahead, we'll have this report on the whole ordeal, the controls. There's a report from yesterday from Sky News.
In Brussels, bleak weather to match the angry mood. The dispute over vaccines is not blowing over, and today Europe announced plans for a transparency mechanism. That's a handy euphemism for having more control over authorising exports of vaccine. And that means a ban on vaccines moving freely between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, raising the spectre of border controls less than a month after Brexit talks came to an end. Officials here deny it's a...
I mean, seriously, the selfishness and the recklessness of the whole thing really does take a minute to set in. But it's really, really stupid. And it shows Northern Ireland was just being used as a political football by the EU. I took them at face value. They clearly weren't genuinely concerned about the peace process or stability in Northern Ireland, because if they were, they wouldn't have done anything remotely like this. Now, onto this, and keeping children entertained can be an arduous task at the best of times, let alone when families are stuck at home for days on end as a result of the COVID lockdown. In recognition of the unique challenges faced by parents, carers and guardians during the pandemic, including juggling homeschooling with pressures of work, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has penned an open letter to them praising their efforts, as well as offering his thanks, saying, while the past 12 months have been tough for us, the demands of this pandemic have also brought out the very best in a great many people. And I'm particularly in awe of the way that parents, carers and guardians of children have risen to the unique challenges with which you have been faced. Whether you've been welcoming a baby into the world without all the usual support networks, finding new ways to entertain a restive 5-year-old when the soft play centre is shut, and playdates are but a distant memory, or steering a teenager through the emotional stresses and strains of these unprecedented times, you have been dealt the trickiest of hands, yet played it magnificently. It's especially true of the way millions of you have coped with the pressures of homeschooling, while also doing your day jobs, and of course meeting all the other demands that small people generate from breakfast until bedtime. Yesterday I had the pleasure of joining a virtual classroom session with a Year 6 class, and while their teachers were doing a fantastic job, it was also obvious just how much effort the mums and dads at home were putting in. Just one problem. It's tough talk, you know. All the right things are being said, all the meaningless platitudes, the easy bit. But where are the practical steps? Where's the sufficient economic support to support people? The government's running an ad campaign, basically telling people off for going to their jobs, even though they have to go to their jobs, and also the government's telling them to go to their jobs. At the same, you know, most people can't work from home, really. Only some professions. At the same time, there are no practical steps being done to get people back in school or to repay or make this burden easier on people. In fact, the government has been, if anything, a blockage to this being easier. They've been useless. The recklessness with which we're hearing talk of schools reopening is also worrying. Apparently, Johnson favours doing it complete blanket, not primary first, not slowly. The government really shouldn't give in to sort of jump the gun on this. If they do, there'll be another lockdown. According to reporting in the Saturday Times today, they are aware of that. Hopefully they genuinely take that on board, because if not, we're all going to suffer. And above all else, the education of our children is going to suffer, because they're going to be in and then they're going to be out again. And I think we'd rather leave it out a little bit more in order to get them in and keep them in sustainably and safely for teachers, for children, for parents, for all involved. Now this will annoy you. Over to the States, and Marjorie Taylor Greene had just finished questioning whether a plane really flew into the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001, and flatly stating that President Barack Obama was secretly Muslim, when she paused to offer an aside implicating another former president in a crime, saying that's another one of those Clinton murders, referring to John F. Kennedy Jr.'s death in a 1999 plane crash, suggesting he had been assassinated while he was a potential rival to Hillary Clinton for a New York Senate seat. Yes, this does sound like fiction, it does sound insane, it is, but this is what I'm reading to you, right? So Miss Greene casually unfurled the cascade of dangerous and patently untrue conspiracy theories in a 40-minute video that was originally posted to YouTube in 2018. It provides a window into the warped worldview amplified by the freshman Republican congresswoman from Georgia, who in the 3 months since she was elected has created a national brand for herself as a conservative provocateur who has proudly brought the hard right fringe to the Capitol. In the process, Miss Greene, 46, has created a dilemma for Republican leaders, who for months have been unwilling to publicly rebuke or punish her in any way whatsoever for her inflammatory statements, in part for fear of alienating voters delighted by her sedentary brand of politics and conspiratorial belief system. Okay, a few things. First of all, the way politics is going, particularly in the Republican Party, on the right generally, but overall in the Republican Party in the States, is really sinister. And it is hitting a point, a sinister point, that I have not seen in my lifetime in the US or the UK. These things have always been there far more than is reported or talked about. But we're really hitting I mean it hand on heart, the most worrying it's been in my lifetime, possibly in yours as well, and really, really historically worrying. We know where these things go. We know how worrying this is. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene expelling a journalist, threatening to have them arrested at a town hall meeting recently.
And I told my staff, I was like, okay, if I'm going to be back in Georgia, I want to see as many people as I possibly can. So let's get some town halls planned. I want to talk to everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing people.
The videos and the posts that
I'm talking to my constituents. We're not having.
And
with minorities in both houses of Congress.
There's shouting going on. Some of the audio is muted. There's a sheriff there. No one's wearing masks. Well, a couple of people are in the back.
The Constitution declares that God declares us equal.
Someone says if you don't leave, you're going to be arrested, to the journalist.
Well, and our Constitution affirms that, right? So we're already equal here in this country. That's the beautiful thing about America. We don't have to pass more laws and put more things in place like the 1619 agenda and the critical race theory. We're all equal anyways. And for the left to tell us that we are suffering in this country is completely wrong.
That was just basically, your standard racism doesn't exist diatribe, as usual. I do want to say, very quickly, people who are currently equivocating between the left and the right, the further left and the further right, and saying, look, these are the same. No. If you are equivocating and saying, oh, look, they're both bad, they're both uncivil, they're both uncouth, chances are you're an elitist. Chances are also that you're almost definitely a part of the problem. Populism isn't the problem. People-powered politics is not the problem. The problem is the far right. The far right has always gone hand in hand with liberals and with the centre. It was the liberals and the centre that always allied with fascism in order to crush the left. The left is the only branch of politics in the States that will unequivocally stand against these things. Bear that in mind before you paint Bernie Sanders and Green with the same brush, which a lot of people try to do, and is extremely, extremely, extremely concerning and completely detached from reality. Let's have a listen to Nancy Pelosi talking about Green.
Speaker, I wanted to ask you about Marjorie Taylor Greene. How concerned are you about her past posts, remarks, rhetoric? What would you like to see done about her?
What I'm concerned about is the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, who is willing to overlook, ignore those statements, assigning her to the Education Committee when she has mocked the killing of little children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when she has mocked the killing of teenagers in high school at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. What could they be thinking, or is thinking too generous a word for what they might be doing?
Is Nancy Pelosi not happy? Cori Bush has had to move her office. Have a listen to this.
I moved my office because I am here to do a job for the people of St. Louis. They deserve that. And what I cannot do is continue to look over my shoulder wondering if a white supremacist in Congress by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene or anyone else, because there are others, that they are doing something or conspiring against us. Our focus has to be on St. Louis and the work that we can get done. And also, my team deserves better. They should not have to come to work and have to wonder if that door is going to open that does not have a peephole, that door is going to open and it's somebody that does not want to do them well.
Okay, so really upsetting situation, really wholly upsetting situation. The free speech question is interesting here. Should this individual be expelled from Congress? If so, who's the arbiter of that? And how do we, it's the same question of, should the FBI crack down on far-right terrorism? Sure. But if we give them loads of extra powers, we know that's going to swing back on the left. The pendulum will swing. And they'll start busting trade unions or spying on progressive activists. It's the same thing here. If we do this, are they going to start expelling socialists from the chambers of Congress as well? And then what do we do? It's a really dangerous route to go down, all of it. The fact we're in a position where we're even discussing having to expel someone from Congress is really worrying. But more worrying than that is the fact there are white supremacists in Congress making elected officials, women of colour, feel unsafe in their place of work, genuinely, physically in harm's way. Because you have literal white supremacists, etching towards fascism type politics. And I don't use that lightly. I didn't use that about Trump, but this is where we're going with this, inevitably. These sort of people, these, at best, hard right authoritarians, at worst fascists, are in the chambers, in the halls of Congress. And no one's doing anything about it. And it's all very normalised, and people are grouping it in with, the right are extreme, well, the left's extreme as well. Whereas, the left in Congress, quote, quote, are basically European Social Democrats. That's the equivalent. Whereas the right are, more in line with what used to be called the National Socialist Party, or something along those lines, the party that Adolf Hitler belonged to. Which was obviously not a socialist party, but it co-opted that word. That party, that far-right party, you cannot make equivocations between people basically advocating Euro-social democracy and people advocating literal fascism, traditionalist, authoritarian politics. It's extremely, extremely worrying. Finally, I want you to have a quick listen to Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, pushing Biden on the issue of student debt.
Are there areas right off the bat where you think President Biden could go further, whether it's on certain executive orders that he's, halfway executed or legislation that you think could go bolder?
There absolutely will be. I mean, it's a little early to tell since he's only been there for a week, but I'll give you two examples of things that we are pushing on. We're thrilled that he said that we were going to executive order signed that we were going to eliminate the use of private prisons in the criminal justice system. We are sending a letter. I think it'll go out today. I'm sending a letter with Jimmy Gomez and Jason Crow to say that needs to extend to immigration detention facilities run by private contractors. There should not be profit making in these private detention facilities for immigration either. That's one example. A second is around student debt cancellation. He hasn't done anything on student debt cancellation yet, but we have spoken to his team, and we do know that he is talking to lawyers and also to Senator Warren and Senator Schumer and us, and trying to make the determination of whether he believes he has the executive power to cancel student loan debt. We believe he does, so that's something we're going to continue to push on. And then a third example.
The reality is Biden does have the power to do quite a lot. He also has the backing to push through various proposals through Congress. 70% of the public want Republicans to cooperate with his agenda. Huge majorities of the public support most planks of his agenda. If he plays his cards right, he can paint the Republicans as obstructionist, but he has to embarrass them to do so. And he said he doesn't want to embarrass any Republicans, which is so antiquated and out of touch with the political realities of today. It's almost a bit comical. Over to the UK, and progressive comrades in the US keep pressuring him. Over to the UK, and a government minister is facing criticism after publicly accusing a journalist of making up claims and creating disinformation for asking questions about a video campaign promoting the coronavirus vaccine program. In the Twitter thread, Kemi Badenoch accused the journalist from HuffPost of creepy and bizarre behaviour, quote, and published screenshots of questions sent to her MP's office and a ministerial press office, naming the reporter. In the wake of the tweets, the journalist concerned, Nadine White, had been forced to make her own Twitter account private as she was receiving so much abuse. That's according to the HuffPost. Badenoch, who serves both as Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury and as an Equalities Minister, said White was undermining trust in the vaccine programme by asking why the minister did not appear in a video promoting vaccine take-up in black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. She wrote, "Chasing clicks like this is irresponsible. Today, an unfortunate reminder of why there is so much confusion and mistrust was in meetings all day and been made of 2 emails received from HuffPost journalist Nadine White. Disinformation is on the rise, yet HuffPost are looking to sow distrust by making up claims. I refused to take part in a video campaign, which I suggested and promoted, even when Labour and Tory MPs worked together. Some in the media will still look for conflict. And the main reason I didn't appear in the video, because I'm taking part in and promoting vaccine trials. Given the worst disinformation is that the vaccine is being tested first on black people, I thought it better to avoid mixed messages about volunteering to be tested." What's the problem with all this, you ask? The problem with all this is it's Trumpian tactics. Adversarial, breaching of norms, sort of ad hominem attacks on journalists. I'm all for criticism and scrutiny of journalists, right? They're meant to be holding the government to account. Very often they don't. It's good when they ask pertinent questions. It's good when they get under a minister's skin. It's also good when we hold them to account and ask their motives. What's happening here, exposing questions, exposing this lady, not a high-profile journalist, to abuse, is unforgivable, completely Trumpian. There is an aspect of sinister, creeping crankery and right-wing politics and conspiracies embedded in the Tory party now. This minister is, in some ways, quite a good example of that. She's the lady who railed against critical race theory and basically did the whole thing of Britain isn't racist, the empire wasn't that bad, and all that, which got her much applause within the British right and the Spectator type crowd. But there is that detachment from reality growing in the Tory party. Again, it's always been there. This is the party that brought us Enoch Powell, but it's growing. UKIP doesn't exist. The Reform Party isn't really getting much traction. It's all of it's in the Tory party now. There's no major force to the right of the Tory party. A story on Brexit, and hundreds of UK companies could switch operations to countries inside the EU in what is threatening to become a dramatic exodus of investment and jobs caused by Brexit. This is according to The Observer. The Observer says that by the 1st of January this year, some 500 businesses, mostly UK-owned or UK-based with overseas owners, were already making inquiries about setting up branches, depots or warehouses in the Netherlands alone for Brexit-related reasons. Since then, the number of inquiries from UK companies has increased further. If companies switch all or parts of their operations to Europe, it will mean the loss of jobs, economic activity and tax revenue at home. Now, bear in mind, this is from The Observer. They do obviously have an editorial agenda, the same way that the tabloids screaming, get your European hands off our vaccines, or really provocative headlines like that, also have a horse in the race and have a political agenda. So we've got to bear that in mind. It's not an impartial arbiter or a truthful force on Brexit. It's one side of the debate, The Observer. However, what we need to see, and what we always needed to see post-Brexit, is strategy and planning for the economy. We need to see a state-led investment strategy. Laissez-faire economics won't cut it. We've left the single market. We've gone for a hard Brexit. We live with the trade-offs of that. And what we have to do in that process is we actually have to fundamentally alter the structure of the economy to rebuild and create a new paradigm, take advantages of having that much independence from the European Union. If we can't do that with laissez-faire economics, we do laissez-faire economics, then we will see this exodus, basically. The forces of transnational capital will punish us for committing the heinous sin of leaving the European Union. So what should we do? Well, first, we should have had a plan. Second, we need a big national investment strategy and state-led industrial strategy, neither of which we're going to get because the government doesn't want to do it. So we're going to be left to suffer with the consequences of this. That's basically what we're going to have to deal with. Jeremy Corbyn, very quickly, talking about the British gas strike. Have a listen.
I support the British gas workers. I support the work they do. Fixing people's boilers, helping people out at home. They're an example of a good quality workforce, well trained and doing a great job to help people. And they always go above and beyond the call of duty. So I say to the British gas, hang on. The idea that you would reduce their working conditions, that you would make them work longer hours, that you would damage the working conditions they've won through their trade union, the GMB, you are wrong. British Airways backed off when they tried to fire and rehire. Please do the same. Full support to the wonderful British gas workers in the GMB.
There you go. That's a Labour leader who knows what solidarity sounds like. Finally, Keir Starmer has done an appearance. Have a listen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Swazi, and you are locked in this evening to a very special quarantine question time. Tonight, we have got two very special guests, and I can't wait to be chopping up all things COVID-19, racial equality, climate change, vaccination, you name it, we're talking about it tonight. Munya, how are you, man? How you doing?
I'm good, yeah. I've had a very domestic day today. I've got the dishwasher on the go. I've got the washing machine on the go. So, ladies, get you a man who can do both. Am I right?
And Munya's in the house. And second of all, it is the one and only Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the opposition. Welcome back here. It's so good to have you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Swazi. That's brilliant to be back.
That's Keir Starmer doing his outreach to young people. It's good he did it. It is quite funny when politicians do stuff like this, isn't it? There were some very promising answers. A sharp rejection of post-crisis austerity, advocation of the complete scrapping of tuition fees, talk about a diversity board in the party, a race equality act in 2024, a de facto apology for calling Black Lives Matter a moment, and some positive noises and negative noises on Donald Trump, but positive noises on big tech. So good stuff. Good on that. The problem is, the trust is gone. Me and everyone on the left, we don't trust Keir Starmer. Do I think any of that will be in the manifesto? God knows. Maybe it will. It'll be too late to win an election with the strategy he's deploying at the moment, but maybe it will.
And Swazi, I remember from
and maybe, out of the blue, we'll have a repeat of 2017. It just doesn't look likely. It really doesn't. We're heading for a big Boris boost after vaccines. My name is Toby Lepati-Mesme. This has been all the latest in UK and US politics from a leftist perspective. We're back same time, same place, 7 PM tomorrow. Subscribe with notifications on, and thanks for listening to MesmePolitics. Tell a friend. You can email me between now and 7 PM tomorrow, tobyjoshua2004@gmail.com. You got me on Twitter @TobyJoshuaUK for all the latest on my views on things as they develop. And finally, you can get me for my daily, it's changed now, daily 5-minute reads on Medium @TobyJoshuaPolitics. Thanks very much for listening. I'll see you soon. The latest on my views on things.